Hello, this is Jennifer McGuire. So glad you're joining me today. And guess what? It is STAMPtember. STAMPtember is a month-long celebration of stamping hosted by one of my favorite businesses, Simon Says Stamp. Now, this has been going on for 15 years. This is their 15th year. What a great celebration. And they have a lot in store for us. Now, during this month-long stamping celebration, there will be fun products, fun collaborations, giveaways, surprises, and best of all, so much inspiration you won't believe it. And because I'm so excited, I am personally offering a great giveaway if you leave a comment on this video, and I'll have information in my YouTube description. Now, I get a lot of questions about STAMPtember, so I have pulled together a page that I'll update throughout the month. At the top of this page, it explains how STAMPtember works, and it'll also link you over to Simon Says Stamp blog where they give even more detailed information. Throughout the month, I will update this with all the different collabs and things going on. I'm just hoping it makes for an easy way to find all the info. I will put a link to that page at the top of my YouTube description below. And before I go any further, I really want to thank Heidi and the team over at Simon Says Stamp for all they do to collaborate with different companies in the industry to really bring us a lot of inspiration and a lot of fun. Now, I wanted to just do a quick overview of STAMPtember. Today is STAMPtember 1st, which means Simon Says Stamp has a new large release. These are new products designed by Simon Says Stamp designers, and they will be available for some time. So if something sells out, they will get it back in stock. This is just a large release with a lot of great products, and I'm going to show you all of those products today along with ideas. If you want to see more ideas using a particular product, you can find that product in my YouTube description below. Click on that, and when you go to that product page, there will be lots of card ideas from the Simon Says Stamp designers, so you can find a ton of inspiration. As I go through these products today, I will talk about my favorites first in each of the categories. But if you want to find those favorites, I will have them listed in my YouTube description below with two little asterisks or stars next to the product name so you can find them easily. You can click those links to see more. Also, I will put a little timestamp that coincides with when that product is talked about in this video, so you can skip to that if you want to. Then on STAMPtember 2nd, I will have a new video showing you lots of cards using lots of the products that you see in today's video. I'll even show some of the cards in today's video. So this is a new technique video with lots of ideas. Then, starting on STAMPtember 3rd, the collabs start. Now, the collabs are stamp and die sets that are done in collaboration with different stamp companies such as Gina K Designs, Tim Holtz, Concord and Ninth, and more. Those go up every day between STAMPtember 3rd and STAMPtember 30th. And the cool thing is this year, it's not at midnight. The collabs go up every day at noon Eastern Time. Now, it's important to note that noon Eastern Time because these collabs often sell out quickly. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. It's hard for Simon Says Stamp to predict what will do well and what people are interested in. So these are limited time only. Once they sell out, they do not restock. And we don't know ahead of time which company will have their collab go up each day. So that's part of the fun and part of the excitement. But if you click that link to my STAMPtember page below, I will update that every day at noon so you can see what is new. So there's a little overview of STAMPtember, but do know there will be more surprises. I'm sure there will be giveaways and promotions. Heidi's always got something fun up her sleeve. And again, today I am going through the STAMPtember release that was designed by Simon Says Stamp, and these products will be restocked. All right, let's jump in and look at all of the new products with this release and some card ideas. Now, the first product doesn't really fit into like a stamping or stenciling category, so I thought I would start with it. This is the new Simon Says Stamp Positively Perfect Craft Tacky Mat. So yes, this is a kind of sticky mat that will hold your paper or stencils in place as you work. And it is designed to fit inside of your MISTI stamping tool and also has the grid line that lines up with your MISTI. This is made of a material similar to what our clear stamps are made of, so you know how much stick it has. This does have really good grip, really good grip. Now, there are different sticky mats like this on the market. I wanted to show you what was a little bit different about this one. On the back side of this mat, there is an engraved grid lines that are in 1/4 inch increments. There are also lines that you can see there that are for A2 card panels or 5x7 card panels. So it helps you to line things up, position things, and so on. I like that the grid line are 1/4 inch increments because that's what we're kind of used to seeing, right? Like in the inside of our MISTI stamping tool or on our work surfaces. So what I like to do is take that clear piece with the black grid and put it on the back side of this tacky mat, lining up the grid. So now I can see that grid even better. So the side facing up towards the camera is super smooth. The side of that tacky mat facing down onto that acetate piece has the little ridges or those grid lines kind of engraved in it. So this is how I would use this, and you'll see me using it today. I can put it in my MISTI stamping tool and it lines up with that grid, or I can take it out and use it on my desk. So I have used in videos many different type of sticky mats like this, and I love that there are so many options and that this offers a few different features. Okay, now let's get into the different product categories. I'll start with my favorites and share card ideas as I go. The first category is embossing folders. Simon Says Stamp has come out with many amazing 3D embossing folders over the years that offer a lot of dimension, and in this release, there are many. My favorite of the embossing folders is the crimped floral 3D embossing folder that comes with 4 dies that cut out flowers. You can see here that these 3D embossing folders don't just have raised and lowered areas, but they have everything in between. So a lot of different degrees of dimension. It's gorgeous. You can also cut out individual flowers with the dies, then put them into the embossing folder, run that through, and you end up with die cuts with that beautiful texture. I really like having this option because then you have more ways to use it. Now, here's a card that I created using this folder, and it will be in a video coming out tomorrow. So I'll show you how I made it in the video tomorrow, but I wanted to give you a peek today. You can see I used the embossing folder on the background and on the 3 individual flower die cuts I used to accent the card. All right, let's move on to the next 3D embossing folder. This is the one from this collection that I can see myself using a lot for a lot of different card designs. It's called Flashy Flare, and it creates this 3D effect coming out of the center. You can see some of those rays are raised up a lot and some are a little bit lower. Amazing amount of texture. And this is great for cards where you want a focal point. Now, you could use this for a celebration card, kind of got that fireworks feel. However, instead, I'm using it as a kind of to draw your eye in to the focal point of the card. It could be used really for a lot of different occasions, and this card will be in my video tomorrow. Okay, next up we have the Falling Hearts 3D embossing folder. This is another one that I love from this collection. I think it is a sweet background that can be used for many occasions also. You can see there are different sized hearts with different amounts of dimension to them. I use the embossing folder on regular cardstock here, and then also holographic cardstock. I thought that looked really good too. And here are 2 examples using this folder. You can see that the backgrounds have a little bit of a different look to them, although I'm using the same colors because I changed up the technique. So in that video tomorrow, I'll share lots of different embossing folder techniques. All right, let's look at the next one. This is beautiful. This is the Thread Plaid 3D embossing folder. What's really special about this one is look, you can almost, it looks realistic. Like you can see those little threads and stitches in the plaid. So beautiful and great really as a focal point on a card. You don't have to do much but add a sentiment to it. I will show techniques with it, however. You can see that thread detail here. Absolutely beautiful. And this is something that you really can only achieve with 3D embossing folders, and that's why I'm excited that there are so many on the market. And by the way, you'll notice that I get excited about different products in this video and in others. I do this for a living. However, I still am a crafter at heart. And so just like you, I get excited when I see products that I like. And here's a card using that thread plaid folder. Another embossing folder that I see myself using a lot is the basket weave. I really like the detail on this. I mean, because it's 3D, you have really smooth basket weave texture to this that I think is beautiful for a lot of different backgrounds. And I also think it would be great for a lot of techniques like this one, where I use gold pigment ink on the embossing folder to add a bit of shine. That will be in tomorrow's video too. I am also really liking the Holly Bunch 3D embossing folder and coordinating die. You can see all the detail that this creates. You can also die cut cardstock and put that into the embossing folder and get an embossed die cut. So you can use these together or separately, and I love having that option. Another beautiful 3D embossing folder is the poinsettia sprays. This has a lot of detail. You can see how like the little pine branches only have a little dimension, but the leaves have more dimension. And I think that's what makes 3D embossing folders so special. Now, this, of course, is beautiful as is. Just add like maybe a gold die cut sentiment. Keep it very simple, or you can use this for fun inking techniques, like this card that I'll have tomorrow that uses gold metallic ink for the background. It's an easy technique to do and really makes your background stand out. For some reason in the photo, this looks very yellow, but it is a true gold. Next is the Tiny Tufts 3D embossing folder. I think you could use this all year round for spring, summer, or even make it seem as berries for the winter. Again, this folder offers, the fine detail dimension of the stems and then the really raised dimension of the flowers and leaves. For a completely different look, here is the Diamond Warp embossing folder. It reminded me of a disco ball, so I just had to use it with holographic cardstock, and look at that shine. I like that it has that warped look to it, so it really creates something a bit different than other embossing folders I have, and it really creates a nice focal point at the center. Here we have the Berry Happy Hummingbird, and this is a 3D embossing folder and a coordinating die. This creates a scene that works great on the front of a card, and you can use markers to color the different areas. The die cuts out the hummingbird, which you can use with the embossing folder, and pop that in place or use on a different card. I know many of you are like me and can't get enough of florals, and here we have the delicate blossoms. This is a beautiful image that has a focal point there close to the center. You can do fun techniques with this or do a simple ink blending on top and add a sentiment for a quick and easy card. One of the embossing folders that stood out to me because it's very different is the Rolling Hills embossing folder. This creates a big backdrop on which you could add other images. So say you have maybe a classic tree, you could put it on this, or even cutesy little critters. You could also cut the different areas out in different colors. So you have a blue sky, like a blue for a river, and then green for the hills. If you like to make underwater or galaxy type cards, the Dottie Whirlpool is a great option. You can see how good it looks with just plain cardstock, but you really could make it stand out by putting metallic ink over the raised areas. You could also scatter little sequins or little gemstones in that whirlpool pattern to offer some sparkle. And we can't forget the fall season. Here we have autumn gourds. And look at the detail on some of these. These little pumpkins and gourds have such great detail. Again, that's something that you get from 3D embossing folders. If you've never tried a 3D embossing folder as opposed to like a 2D traditional folder, it is outstanding the difference. Then we have the droopy web that would be great for a backdrop of any Halloween card. And there will be some Halloween products later in this video. I shared the embossing folders first because there were so many and so many that I liked. Next, let's cover the dies because there are a lot of great ones in that category. Die cutting is one of my favorite things to do, and therefore I'm always excited for new options. First, we have the Autumn Leaf Frame. This is a beautiful die that cuts 3 different frames, and there are 3 different word dies included. So one frame is the outer one with little detailed holes. The second frame is this inside one with the floral. And then the third is this thin rectangle frame. So you could use these all together or separately. The die set also includes the words hugs, hello, and thanks. And I like the small size of them so that they're easy to fit on any card. I really appreciate when companies make die sets like this, where there is a lot packed into one die set and it can be used in several different ways. So you'll see me use those word dies on other cards also because of the nice small size. This die set was actually the first product I used. Here it is with the plaid thread embossing folder I showed you earlier. And notice I used all three frames with white cardstock and silver cardstock for a fun, bold look. I mentioned I'm a big fan of flowers. Here is a great one that I love. This is the rustic layering flower. Now, this would work great for fall florals, but I went bright since we're still in the thick of summer here. You can layer these up in many different ways. You could do a single layer like the flowers on my desk there, or double it up like I did on these two flowers. Or you can use the big and the small together for a very full flower, and then the little details that can be used for the center of the flowers or for tiny flowers. So again, you can use these in many ways, and here are those flowers featured on a card along with the Falling Hearts embossing folder from earlier. Another floral die set that I really like is the Elegant Blossom Branch. This has more of an elegant feel to it and is very easy to assemble. Simon Says Stamp has images on how to put them together over on their blog. Now, I made mine from some yellow and green cardstock scraps and then added them along with the background die and the basket weave 3D embossing folder from earlier. Now, this flower set and the last one I like so much that I've already started doing mass production die cutting using my scraps to create a lot of flowers that I can add to cards very quickly. There are also several word dies in this release that are wonderful. Here we have with sincere thanks. There is the shadow die and the word die themselves. This is very detailed and has such an elegant feel to it. I feel like most word dies have more of a bold or playful look, so it's nice to have an elegant option. You'll be seeing this in future videos. It's got a permanent spot on my desk. I'm also really liking the Fancy Just Because die set. This has the shadow and the words. This is a nice large die set that works great at the center of a card and can be used for so many different occasions. I like to create cards with messages like this because I can use it for many occasions. You could use it for birthday, get well, thinking of you, anything. You just put that specific occasion like stamped on the inside or just write it on the inside with your personal message. So the just because is kind of like a hello. You can use it for a lot. I used it on two cards for tomorrow's video, so you'll see it in action. Next, we have the lovely die set. Now, there is a stamp set that coordinates with this. I'll show it later, but I wanted to show it here also because it works great on its own. I really like the style of this one with the word and the shadow die included. By the way, that cardstock piece is 4¼ by 5½ inches, so you can get an idea of the sizing. Now, the lovely sentiment can be added in with other sentiments you have. So you could do like, you are lovely, have a lovely day. It's a great way to stretch the supplies you already have by matching it up with this. For a simple classic thank you message, we have the simple thanks. This has the shadow die and the word itself. And I like that the shadow die is a bit bigger, so it allows that dainty thanks die cut to stand out. Along the same lines, we have Simple Peace. I really like the classic look of this, so I used it for two holiday cards in tomorrow's video. I think it looks great with gold cardstock for the word and white or vellum for the shadow. Next, we have the Fancy You. This also has a coordinating stamp set that I'll show you later, but can be used on its own. Once again, you have the shadow and the word itself. There's one background die in this collection, the double plaid cover. This one cuts a 4¼ by 5½ inch piece, and you can use it on the background as you see here, or you can double it up and offset it or rotate it with another die cut so you can have a layered look. You can also offset it, and that would give you even more of a plaid look. So there are many ways to use this one. I used it just for simple white die cuts on an embossing folder background for my example. If you've watched my videos, you know I also like to use butterflies. Here we have the Chelsea butterfly, which is a nice size. You can see it on a 4¼ by 5½ inch piece here. It's very simple to assemble, and you can also put dimension behind the wings. I used it along with the flashy flare 3D embossing folder here for a quick and simple card that really makes a statement. Here we have the spiky flowers. Now, these dies can be layered together to make a lot of different looks. I just put together one example here. You could make a narrow flower, you could add more leaves, a lot of different ways you can use this, and it's an excellent way to use up your scraps and create some quick layered cards. The next die set is a good one because it can be used for birthday or Hanukkah cards or even more. We have the sparkling candles. First, this die set allows you to create layered candles like the one I have here. I like that they're tall, so they would even work well on a 5x7 card. The die set also includes this die that does like a faux stitching or piercing look, and it's kind of like a little burst that could go behind your candles to add even more interest to your card. You could even use that die repeatedly to cover a background. Now, coffee and hot chocolate kind of products are always popular. Here we have the coffee mugs die set. It creates 3 sizes of coffee mugs, and this coordinates nicely with some coffee stamp sets I'll show you a bit later. I also like that you could use any of your stamps on the side of these coffee mugs to decorate them however you want. We also have the big bow die set. Now, this one's easy to assemble and you can create a bow on your cards, but I also think this would be fun to put on your wrapped gifts for Christmas because then you can mail it and don't have to worry about that bow getting squashed in the mail. Last but not least, for the dies, we have the Ooh La La butterflies. Now, this die set creates all of these little butterflies and dots. You can use either the butterfly and dots on their own, or you can use the negative space, or you can use them together. Here I'm kind of quickly assembling something showing how you can use them together. I like dies like this because those little butterflies can be used as accents on your cards. And those little dots you can cut from like a metallic cardstock and create your own flat, shiny faux gemstones. I feel like oftentimes dies like this get overlooked, but there really are so many things you can do with them to really stretch the use. Now it's time for stamp sets. There are many stamp sets in this release, along with the coordinating dies. My favorite from the release is the Peaceful Trees from Simon Says Stamp and CZ Designs. Such a classic design with beautiful sentiments. I also like the silhouette images that are great for techniques, and there are dies that cut out the trees and all of the sentiments. Really easy to create a simple classic card with this. And Kathy Zilski showed me a card she made with it. I can't wait for you to all see it. It's beautiful. I will link to her YouTube channel here. The stamp set that I'll get the most use out of from this release is the big holiday words. I make a lot of holiday cards and I like to have lots of different options. These are sized just right, also have the little sentiment strip images that you can team up with it. You can see there are coordinating dies that cut out all the sentiments closely and even little sentiment strip dies with rounded corners for a classic look. So I will be using this one a lot in the future because it has so many greetings included. Earlier I showed you the lovely dies. Now we have the lovely stamp set. Now the shadow die from the lovely die set actually stamps or cuts out the stamp from the lovely stamp set. So these can be used together and separately. You can build up sentiments such as thank you for the lovely day. To my lovely friend, you are a lovely human being. You are lovely inside and out. Lovely and so very loved. I mean, there are many different ways you can build sentiments with this, and I like that it's different. I think it's something that can be used many times over and over. Another of my favorites of the stamps from this release is the Just Because background. I'm a big fan of background stamps that are built of lots of text, and this is a good one because it can be used on a variety of card occasions. I also like the mix of fonts, so it has a different look to it. So this is one big background stamp, but you definitely could cut out individual sentiment strips after you've done the stamping. I used it on the background of this card and on the flap of the matching envelope. There are a few fall holiday stamp sets. Here we have my favorite, which is Give Thanks and Eat Pie. There is a coordinating die set that goes with it. I just don't have it yet. This stamp set allows you to build the images. Those you can see the examples on the back. I like that it numbers them so you can figure out how to easily piece them together. You can do sentiments like give thanks and eat pie and have that around your pie stamped image. Such a simple and really easy to put together stamp set. And we also have the Pumpkin to Talk About stamp set. This is a large background stamp and then individual sentiments below. There is a coordinating die set that cuts out those sentiments and also cuts rectangle frames that you can put around the sentiments so they stand out on the background. This would be fun to use. This background would be fun to use with like an inky technique, maybe with some gold and orange mica spritz. Lots of ways you can use it. Here we have the You Matter stamp set. This is 6x8 with coordinating dies. This one allows you to build up messages with the word you. So, like thinking of you, sending you love, many ways you can use it. And this does work with the fancy You die set that I showed you earlier in this video. I like flowers, and I appreciate that this has different style flowers to it with a very thin outline to them. So, it has a very delicate look. Another 6x8 stamp set is the Grateful Florals. The nice thing about this one is these flowers can be used for autumn theme, like autumn flowers, or you can use it for spring and summer. And the sentiments are really nice that go with it. There are coordinating dies to cut out the flowers and those sentiments. This one is very easy to color, but has a beautiful look to it. I also think it would be nice to just stamp tone on a background because it is such a large image. Here is a 4¼ by 5.5 inch panel so you can see the sizing. Because I like the unique look of the sentiments included, I chose to use thank you on this card. I believe this next stamp set was part of a kit over at Simon Says Stamp, but it's available separate along with coordinating dies. This is the Chunky Thankful stamp set and die set. Now, in this, you have beautiful images that can be used for simple layering of flowers. If you want to try stamp layering but want to keep it simple, this is a good example. And it also has lots of little sentiments that you can use as sentiment strips along with the thankful word or on other cards. There are also a few adorable sets. For those of you who really like to color, we have the Birthday Party stamp set. Look at those sweet little images. You can create a fun scene with these, and there are coordinating dies. Then we have the 6x8 Party stamp set. And by the way, when you see stamps and die sets shown here, they are available together or separately. Now you'll recognize a lot of the images in here, but what I'm really excited about is this stack of coffee cups or teacups. You could use that image along with coffee sentiments to really get more out of the other products that I've been showing in this video. We did some coffee cup dies earlier, and there are some coffee stamp sets coming up. So you can mix and match these together well also. Let's look at a few of those coffee stamp sets. This is Coffee Time, and it has lots of sentiments that are fun and playful and a bit unique that work with coffee and other type cards. We have Weekend Forecast, Crafting with a Chance of Coffee, or Coffee Until Cocktails, A Hug in a Mug. So this allows you to come up with different sentiments that work well with your coffee themed products. There is also a large background stamp. This is called Coffee Beans. It is the size of a traditional background stamp, but instead of cling, it is a clear stamp. There is also a stencil that looks just like this pattern, and it is called Fresh Roast. These will cover a 4¼ by 5.5 inch cardstock panel with no problem. I know there are a lot of pumpkin spice fans out there, so we have the Pumpkin Spice Vibes stamp set and coordinating dies. This is a tiny one, and you can use the smaller images to stamp on the little coffee mug there at the bottom. Next up, changing gears, we have the 6x8 Block Alpha Words stamp set, and on the back it shows some examples of how you stamp these together to get colorful sentiments. I'm looking forward to using this for making cards for my son. I feel like it has kind of a young, somewhat masculine look to it, so it's something different. I don't have anything like this, and I'm always a fan of changing things up. For a couple unique holiday sets, we have the 6x8 Christmas block art set. This you can stamp the two images together. You have the negative space and the positive. So you can stamp those together in different colors or use them separately. So this is something that you can use for a lot of techniques, as there are many techniques that you can do with solid images. You can actually spray these and stamp with them for kind of a watercolor look. Many ways that these can be incorporated into your holiday cards. For Halloween, we have the fun Spooky Windows stamp set and coordinating die, and there is a stencil that goes with this. So you can create a little window scene with the spider web in it or have the little witch peeking through it, and you can ink up those windows along with the stencil. Speaking of stencils, let's move on to that category. Now, there aren't many stencils in this release, but I love each and every one that's included. First, we have the Quilting Quarters Stencil Set. This has multiple stencils that you build together to create a beautiful background, like you see the example on the packaging. So, this is a great way to make lots of different color combinations for bold backgrounds. And all you have to do is add a sentiment. I am loving the look of this. I also am really liking this leaf layering set. I think you pronounce it Stramanth. It is large, so it covers a regular note card and then some. So it works on 5x7 too. Simon Says Stamp came out with another leaf layering set, kind of similar to this, but a completely different shape leaf. I used that in a video, and I will link to that up here on the top right if you want some ideas. But I really think the style of this layering set makes for great techniques. You could use ink and water, you could use gels and pastes, many things you can do with it. I also am really liking this new Stripes and Plaid Builder stencil set. So there are multiple stencils in here that you can use for a stripe background, or you can turn them and use them to create a plaid background. This would be great for creating a Christmas plaid, and then use that bow die set from earlier to put a bow on it, and your card will look like a wrapped present. If you're looking to make a birthday or celebration card, I encourage you to look at the Sprinkles Layering Stencil Set. You could even use these stencils on their own. There's a dot stencil, could be used for snowfall too, and then several of the sprinkle stencils. So you can create a colorful background, add a sentiment, maybe add some of those candles, and you have a great birthday card. Another product that I'm looking forward to using is the Snowflake Stripes Stencil Set. So you can use that large snowflake on its own, or you can also use the striped stencils that come along with it to build a background like the one you see on the packaging. So this is a great way to use your inks to create a simple yet bold holiday card and just add a sentiment right there at the center of the snowflake. And here is the fresh roast stencil that I mentioned earlier. It goes nicely with the background stamp and all of the other coffee themed products that I shared. Now, this STAMPtember release also includes a few other types of products, and I'm putting them all together here in the end. They are releasing a bunch of sentiment strips that are wonderful. I use these a lot in videos. In fact, I just did a video on all the ways you can use these, and I will link to that up here in the top right and in the description below. You can cut the individual sentiments out with a trimmer. You can also foil these using a laminator or something like the Gina K fuse system. So these are a really quick way to add sentiments to your cards. There are regular sentiment strip packs available, and then there are the reverse, which are the black ones on the left. So it gives you just two different looks. And I should also mention that the used sentiment strips and the Just Because sentiment strips can work well with the Fancy You and Fancy Just Because dies I showed you earlier in this video. Simon Says Stamp also has some pre-printed sheets that can be foiled in both white cardstock and in acetate, such as these falling confetti. So these you put foil on and run through a laminator or your Gina K fuse system, and it gives you beautiful foiling. These clear pieces would be great for shaker windows, celebration cards, really easy to use, and you can ink blend over the foiling you do with the pieces on the right. And last but not least, there are two embellishment packs. You have the candy buttons on the left and the Northern Lights on the right. The reason I'm liking these and decided to share them today is because the variety of color in the ones on the left, both packs are flat and have a mix of sizes, and I like the iridescent look of the Northern Lights on the right. They're simply fun embellishments that will work for a lot of different cards. So there you have it, a look at the STAMPtember release. These are all products from Simon Says Stamp, and if they sell out, they will be restocked. Before we go, I recommend you check out two things. First, in my YouTube description, I link to my STAMPtember page that gives lots of information about how STAMPtember works, really clear and precise, and will share all the updates throughout the month. And I also encourage you to come back tomorrow where I share a video where I create all of the cards I showed you in today's video and share a bunch of techniques. STAMPtember is really a fun month-long celebration of stamping. And I know not everyone can buy products right now, but don't worry, STAMPtember has a lot of inspiration to offer. So you can get a lot of ideas for products you already have in your stash. If you're interested in my big giveaway, that is also in the description below. You just need to leave a comment. And I thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you have a good week and happy STAMPtember.